Philomath is a small timber community that's hard hit by the environmental spotted owl controversy. Also, the state has passed a Measure 5 initiative in the last year that has realigned all the economic balances with the state. We've been in the timber business for 100 years, and we're a very tightly knit, proud community.
This old abandoned house is one of the last obstacles the city of Philomath has overcome in its enduring quest to build a new public library.
We're having a party. We're celebrating 15 years of trying to build ourselves a new library, and it's been off, on, and stop, go. And the library will be sitting where the house is being burnt right now.
Members of the Philomath Library Steering Committee say they were told long ago that the small town could never hope to raise the hundreds of thousands of dollars needed to qualify for federal assistance for the library project. The naysayers were wrong.
There's a tremendous sense of pride and community in this town, and I think you see it here today. The weather hasn't deterred the people at all, and we're just happy that we have had such support, and this is our way of saying thank you to the community.
Things aren't the rosiest right now in this community, but I think this is kind of a focal point. Our library is very inadequate, and I think we can get everybody together and cure that one, and maybe we can go on and cure some of the other problems. But it's just, you know, I think it gives everybody kind of a rallying point.
The current Philomath Library doesn't amount to much at only about 1,000 square feet. But Library Director Deborah Jacobs says the new state-of-the-art facility will be a just reward for the city.
Our new library will be almost 5,000 square feet. And, of course, it'll have room for modern technology, it'll be handicap accessible, and there'll be room for story time and other kinds of children programming. And we'll have a community meeting room that'll also be handicap accessible, which we don't have in the community right now.
The next step in the project is to fill in this area with concrete and raise it above the floodplain. Construction is slated to begin sometime this summer, and the whole project should be done in about 1 or maybe 2 years. In Philomath, Rich Robeson, Northwest News.
We're all volunteers. Doctors, county commissioners, professional people. We've got people out here giving up their Sunday today, putting in the foundation, and this community might be short on a viable timber industry, but we got a lot of heart and soul, and we're down here and not only building the library, but bringing the community together and rallying around the fact that we can do this despite the hard economic times and the mills closing and things being tight economically for people. So we're real proud of the fact that we've been able to get this far.
I'm a volunteer because I saw a need in the community that I knew that I could help out with, because it's something I do know how to do. And it's a fun thing to work with other volunteers to build something together as a community that is going to stand for a long time, and something I can look at when I get older and know that I was a part of. And I've got young kids, so I know they're going to enjoy this building.
I'm volunteering because I feel the library is a very important part of our community. The one we have now is totally inadequate, and I'm hoping to get a much better facility built so that our children and everybody else in the community can enjoy it. I've been working on this project now for about 3 years, and I think it's things are finally coming to bear, and I feel really good about it. And I think the whole community can feel good about what's going on here.
A library is rising from the ground in Philomath, even though voters rejected funding proposals. It's going up in traditional barn raiser style, where neighbors donate materials and labor. Today, the project got a big boost from the Georgia Pacific Corporation. Al Peterson reports.
Philomath residents may be stingy when it comes to approving new taxes, but they're generous when it comes to lending a hand. They're supplying the free labor, while local engineers, contractors, and landscapers are supplying no-cost and low-cost services. All that's missing are the materials, and that's where companies like Georgia Pacific are stepping in. Today, GP dropped by with 7,000 board feet of lumber. The company took over the old Diamond B mill, and officials say they're glad they did.
Employees at the mill are good workers, take an interest in their job to put out a quality product. The whole community has been very supportive.
Mobley says his company's planning to stay a while and that a library sounds like a pretty good long-term investment. When completed, it will span nearly 5,000 square feet.
There are uncertainties with this project. Right now the foundation's being poured, the framing is about to follow, but no one's quite sure where the finished materials are going to come from. But the reward is that for around $300,000, the city could get a building worth more than twice that.
And since the finances are coming from a federal grant and donations, Philomath is getting the deal of a lifetime. Organizers hope the addition of Georgia Pacific's 2x6s will spur more volunteers and donations.
I think that it will show people that, yeah, hey, these guys are serious, because they're still, you know, there's been a lot of people that thought, you know, you can't do it, and, you know, you're not going to get it done. And I think we get some walls up, and they're going to say, hey, you know, these guys are serious. I might as well go down and help them now, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is the front with our door system here and windows, and then this is the back.
No one's venturing a guess on a specific completion date, but Young believes with any luck, Philomath could have its new library open by next summer. In Philomath, Al Peterson reporting for Eyewitness News.
From the combined newsrooms in Eugene, Roseburg, and Coos Bay, this is Northwest News at 6.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Doyle.
And I'm Shelley Kurtz. A timber town working to turn its economy around is feeling shaken after hearing news one of its pet projects may not happen as planned. Susan Castillo has the story.
People covering the kids, and people come down here after work. They work on their weekends, and they put their heart and their soul in this. So, you know, it's personal. It really is.
Personal is how the people of Philomath are taking the latest blow to the community, affecting plans for a new library. Philomath received a $112,000 federal grant to help pay for the new project, but now the feds are saying it can't use volunteers to build it, citing a Department of Labor rule that says anyone working on the project must be paid union wages.
And the intent was that it would be built virtually with volunteer money and volunteer labor.
I think that their intent needs to be called into question, because they could have brought this up at the beginning of the grant application or anywhere between the time it was awarded, which was June of '91.
Philomath is a timber-based community that has been hurt by declining jobs in that industry. The community sees the library as one of the projects needed to bring new business to the area. The existing library was built in 1938. Community leaders will be researching their options, saying the project will go forward somehow.
Federal government has a credibility problem, not only nationally, but they've got one in Philomath today.
Lamb says the community has picked itself up by the bootstraps in the face of difficult times, and now it has to face another hurdle.
City officials will be holding a meeting later this month to decide whether or not to give the federal government back its money, possibly saying thanks, but no thanks. In Philomath, I'm Susan Castillo for Northwest News.
Well, while we're talking about the bureaucracy, you've heard it before. You can't fight City Hall and win, but what happens when City Hall takes on Uncle Sam? Well, as News 8's Ann Jager reports tonight, that's just what happened when the small Oregon town of Philomath took on the federal government.
Philomath's library is more of a cubby hole than a real public library. Jeff Lamb has been worried about the cramped space for years.
Well, nothing's code. We're totally out of code here. This is, like I say, a building that's been built in 1938, and we're not handicap accessible.
Besides that, there's little room for books or the people reading them. So recently, the town of 3,000 people decided to build their own library. The all-volunteer force poured the concrete foundation just last week. even though Uncle Sam told them to stop work or lose a $112,000 grant because they were using free labor.
You talk about mad. When the feds said that Philomath couldn't use volunteers to build their own library, the whole town was grumbling about what's wrong with America. They were ready to give that government money back, but they weren't going to give up on the library.
Kick in the teeth would be a good way to express it.
An obscure law protecting workers' wages stood in the way, and unions stood firmly in opposition to free labor. Legislator Bob Shiprack is an electrician by trade. He's also the head of the Building Trades Council. Nothing against volunteerism, you understand. It's just that his members need paid work.
We've got a lot of people unemployed now who make their livings building buildings. And this is not Philomath's money. This is federal tax dollars. It's mine and yours.
But today, Philomath City Manager Hal Million is proud to announce they're opening a whole new chapter in the city's history. Uncle Sam relented, so the library will continue with volunteered labor and materials.
We're delighted that we've got this thing solved so far, and we think that that'll be the last real obstacle other than just raising the funds and the materials to complete the project.
So come June of next year, these old books will find a new home. And book lovers couldn't be happier.
I love it. I love it.
I think it's the next best thing to having some kind of a spiritual revelation. It felt almost like I'd had a couple too many martinis, but...
So the little town of Philomath is now the exception to the rule, the old federal rule. With the help of volunteers here, the new city library will be another shining example of your tax dollars at work. Ann Jager, News 8.
I'm involved in the library project because Philomath is a timber-dependent community. They're limited by the impact of ballot measure 5, but education is a high priority for all the people in the community. They want to have a library. Without having any options to build that library, they've had to go out, gather volunteers, get volunteer contributions for money and also materials to build this library. They've really beaten all the odds, but they're building a library, as you can see behind me right now.
The involvement is an important part of living in a community, and I believe that as mayor I need to support those efforts that are improving our community, making it a better place to live. Currently we have a library that's in a small, inadequate space. The community has risen up to meet the challenge. We've received a grant from the federal government to pay for a part of this building, but by and large we're doing it with volunteer labor and donations. I think this is going to bring our community closer together in the long run. It's certainly going to make our community be a better place to live. Eventually that will probably draw more people to our community, industry, where they see that we're doing the things we ought to be doing to make a better way of life for our community. This is going to go a long ways towards doing that. We have plans for the park here south of the library. We have plans for City Hall. We're going to begin developing plans for a community center.
A project in the town of Philomath, they've undertaken this project over the last couple of years, is making some progress.
The parcel of land just down the road from Philomath's fairgrounds has taken form after 15 years of planning. Even last year's scuffle with the Labor Department over the volunteer labor used to build the library hasn't gotten in the way. In fact, the fight helped get things going.
Part of the bigger story is that the flap with the federal government has led to a bill in Congress, and one of the silver bullets, which will win the debate over whether people have an inalienable right to volunteer for their communities, will be the Philomath Library Project.
Volunteers who have put in countless hours are looking at March of 1994 as a completion date. A children's author recently donated $10,000 to the project, which will be used to put in some windows. A conference room will be open to the public after hours, and even better, organizers say mail has been flowing in from well-wishers around the country.
A small town's efforts to build a library and a city hall are in trouble again. Philomath had to fight for the right to use volunteers on the project, and News 8's Pat Cruz now says the city has an environmental fight on its hands.
All Jeff Lamb wants to do is build a town library.
This is an investment in our children's future.
All Hal Million wants to do is build a new city hall.
We have been saving for like 15 years.
But the federal government keeps tripping up their plans. First, the Labor Department said Philomath couldn't use volunteers to build the library. The city won that battle, but now it has another front to fight.
The son of a guns keep changing the rules on you.
The Army Corps of Engineers says the city is building on wetlands. That means the city hall has to move to the back of the site, and the library can't have a parking lot. Lamb calls it dirty politics.
I mean, right now you could consider the whole middle of the United States wetlands, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if some nut doesn't do it.
The Army Corps of Engineers says a lot more goes into determining a wetlands than just how wet it is. They look at the kinds of plants that grow here and the kinds of soils. But they say the people of Philomath shouldn't give up hope just yet. After a review process, they might win a waiver and the city can build its city hall exactly where it wants to. But that process can take at best 60 to 90 days, and city leaders say they can't afford to wait. Hal Million is counting on some free labor to build his city hall, a class of former timber workers learning the construction trade. They'll be gone by the time the wetlands issue gets resolved.
Without that labor, we probably don't have enough money to do the building as it's presently designed.
People in Philomath are trying to save money, but they keep butting heads with a government that says they're breaking the rules. Pat Cruz, News 8.
The Philomath City Council meets on Monday. It'll decide whether to build the City Hall now, where the Corps of Engineers wants them to build it, or wait through that review process and pay more to build later at the site the city wants.